Hi 1301 students, sorry about the delay in posting this video. I wanted to get us just thinking more about argument this week, and so I posted the letter from Birmingham Jail, and I wanted to give you time to read that letter before you watch this video. So if you haven't read that letter, I would definitely just stop the video now and go ahead and read that letter. Also, one thing I might do real quick, even if you have read it, if you want to pause the video real quick and label number the paragraphs in that letter so that you can follow along with some things that I'm going to point out. You may want to go ahead and start with the paragraph that says, while confined here in Birmingham City Jail, and go ahead and label that as 1 and number all of the paragraphs in the letter. That will just help us navigate through the letter as we talk today. But before we look at Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail, I did want to address some things. First of all, the MindTap problems. I know many of you were having trouble with the links in the getting started in chapter 18. So if that was you, I don't know what was wrong with the link, but that getting started activity in chapter 18 and probably in chapter 17 too, I'm just going to scrap those because a lot of people had trouble with the links. However, many of you also had trouble with MindTap being down Sunday night. I don't know why it was down, why it chose to go out, of course, 2 hours before all of your assignments were due. Here's the thing with that. I am not going to allow any more makeup, but just remember that if you didn't get some of those assignments in, that there will be dropped assignments. So I am going to drop several of your low grades. So hopefully those will be included. I feel like you had a whole week to work on your MindTap exercises. So hopefully you had done some of your exercises. If you were waiting until 9 p.m. to do all 2 chapters for the whole week, then unfortunately I just don't have too much sympathy, because I think that you need to be starting it sooner than that. However, I do understand your frustration, because I know, we expect technology to work for us when we need it to. And so I totally understand that, and I'm not dismissing that. And like I said, I think there will be grace at the end of the semester for that, because I am going to drop several low grades. But again, on that note, I had several students who didn't have any problems because they weren't waiting until Sunday night 2 hours before the assignments were due to finish them. Again, I know you have work schedules, I know you have families and things get in the way, but I'm just saying I hope that you hadn't just started all of the exercises at that time, so that hopefully you still had some exercises turned in before the crash on Sunday night. So that's how I've decided to handle that. We're not going to do any extended due date on those. I'm just going to hope that you will be able to recover from that based on dropping some of your low grades. And please, please don't worry about it, because think about how many MindTap exercises you've had. And those zeros honestly would probably cancel out anyway. But don't forget, I am also going to drop low grades. So you've got that on your side. Please, please don't worry too much about it. But also hopefully use that as a lesson to get some of your exercises done earlier in the week. Again, I'm not saying that this wasn't a problem. I'm not saying it's your fault at all. I'm just saying this is how I'm choosing to deal with it, just because of the complications that would come with an extended due date. So anyway, I hope that sets your mind at ease. Please let me know, any of you who emailed me about MindTap this weekend, if I haven't addressed your problem or if you're still confused. Please just let me know via email this week and we'll walk through that. So in today's video, I'm probably going to run out of time, so I'm probably going to do 2 videos. But my main goal was just to review argument, talk a little bit more about chapter 17 that you read that just went over argument strategies. I wanted to just quickly review that, and I wanted to use Letter from a Birmingham Jail to kind of show you some of these things in action. And so first, let's quickly review the elements of an argument. First of all, my simple definition of an argument would be claim plus support. So an argument is an argument when you have both of these things. When you have a claim that's arguable, that's debatable, and that claim is supported with the appropriate evidence to prove the claim. One other thing about argument that you don't want to forget to do is to address the other side. You always want to mention your opposition and give them their credit and also refute any claims that they might make. You want to avoid those logical fallacies that you read about in chapter 17. These are basically just gaps in logic, statements that aren't backed up with evidence, statements that maybe skip a step or give false information. You want to be sure to avoid those. And also, we want to use these rhetorical appeals that were at the end of last week's notes. So we want to use an ethical argument ethos and build our credibility with our readers. We want to use pathos, maybe just a little bit of emotion in our argument. We definitely don't want an argument based on emotion, but it can be a good appeal to your readers' feelings and your readers' values. I would suggest maybe if you want to use some emotional appeals, to use them very, very sparingly, possibly just in your introduction and conclusion. And then logos, of course, this would be our main goal in our argument, is to provide logical information to help us understand, or to help your reader understand your claim and your argument. So that's just a quick review of argument, basically from chapter 17. So now let's study that a little bit in Letter from Birmingham Jail. So first of all, claim plus support. Dr. King makes several claims throughout his letter and supports each claim with its own evidence. He uses anecdotes, he uses analogies, examples, historical examples, personal examples, social examples, biblical examples. So he uses a lot of support to of course prove his claims. So let me just give you an example. Again, he makes a lot of different claims in his argument. Let's see. One claim that I might point out would be, let's see. How about if we move to paragraph 11 on the second page, the very last paragraph, that big paragraph. King makes a claim there at the beginning of the paragraph. He says, "We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. So he makes this truth claim that this is true, that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. And then he furthermore extends that claim and says it must be demanded by the oppressed. And then throughout his paragraph, he supports that with several different types of evidence. For example, I love the metaphor he gives as he talks about the freedom being, or segregation being, a disease in the third line of that paragraph. And he says, it rings in the ear of every Negro with a piercing familiarity. This weight has almost always been never. It has been a tranquilizing formaldehyde, revealing the emotional stress for a moment, only to give birth to relieving the emotional stress for a moment, only to give birth to an ill-formed infant of frustration. He uses this great metaphor for this drug that was used that ended up causing birth defects in babies as this example of what waiting has done to African Americans longing for freedom. He also gives several examples of violence. He definitely uses some emotional appeals in this paragraph as he describes how he addresses his daughter and his son about different issues in segregation. He gives tons of evidence and kind of repeats when, as a way to give us all these different examples to prove his claim that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor, and that waiting is not the answer. And so, anyway, that paragraph is a very, very interesting paragraph, designed to answer the question, why can't you wait for freedom? Why can't you wait? And he gives observations and anecdotes and analogies in that paragraph to prove his claim. So that would be one example of claim plus support. But of course, almost every paragraph in this is a claim and support as you go along. So I challenge you to look at that. Another way he presents his claims is through addressing the other side. Just one example that I just now flipped to would be, look at page 3, paragraph 12, the first paragraph on that page. He says, "You express a great deal of anxiety over our willingness to break laws." So he's addressing the other side and he's saying, okay, so you say this, let me prove to you why your critique is not true. And so then he logically proves by defining just and unjust laws why it is effective for them to break these laws and why it's acceptable because they are unjust laws. Now, I'm going to move to a new video, and I'm going to start the video off by looking at the way King addresses the other side some more in his argument. So be thinking about that as you switch. Be thinking about how Dr. King addresses his audience and the other side throughout his argument. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.